rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we're lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share. So long as we live, Rosa too shall live, for she is a part of us as we remember her. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan va'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job we say, Adonai natan, God you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in Rosa's life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. With Job we say, Adonai lakach, God you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love as we say, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. Blessed be the name of God now and forever. Friends, we're joined here this morning by a common loss, a common grief that we share as one. But I know well that for each of us, the way we feel this morning is very much a product of our own individual, our own personal relationship with her. For some, she was neighbor. For some, she was a fellow member of our synagogue congregation. For some, she was a close friend. And for others, she was a member of the family. No matter how we knew her in a way that bonded us to her, such that we knew that our place was here today to remember her and pay tribute to her. And so before we speak public words that we speak aloud to recall Rosa to our hearts and our minds, I'd ask us, each one of us, to take a more quiet and more personal moment, to turn to our own hearts, to look to our own very personal memories, perhaps of a time with her when she made us smile, a time when we paused to consider her place in our lives. Let's take a quiet moment to pray, to remember in silence. We are blessed this morning to be able to hear from memories spoken by members of the immediate family. I'm going to begin this morning by calling on Rosa's niece, Deborah, to come forward.
I remember all the happy times we had. We had a complicated relationship, but she loved us. I remember she would just call us and say that she would want to make sure we got a card, or just to say happy birthday or our anniversary. And I'll keep those thoughts with us. And I know she loved us and always will, and I love her too, and we'll miss her. And I know she loved Harry Snowflake, and they loved her too. May you rest in peace, and we shall be well. Amen.
Rosa's sister Ruth to come forward.
Almost all of you know me. Rosa and I grew up together. I knew her every day of my life. When we were little, we fought like brother and sister. Sisters that siblings do. Sometimes Rosa would pinch me and I would tell on her. And then she'd get me back later on. As we got older, I hated reading and writing. She was my answer. She did it for me. She hated math. I did hers. We switched roles. And then at the end, whenever I needed help writing, she did it. She needed math, I did it. As teenagers, we had lots of fun getting into plenty of mischiefs, hiding our cigarettes from our parents, taking them from the candy store that we owned, and, hoping that they didn't see it, but they knew we smoked, and then eventually we all stopped smoking, as we know that that's not very healthy. Rosa and I went to college. We both got married. We were very, very close growing up. We lived in different states. Rosa had 5 wonderful children. David, the eldest, who she's very proud of. Michael, next, who was amazing. Then came Cindy, and Cindy was very different and also amazing. Then came Steve, who had so many wonderful qualities that he picked up from her. And then toward the end, Steve was there for her to take to the doctors, to be with her, to spend the time and nurture her through the difficult years of being sick. And then came Jeffrey. Jeffrey was also the pride of her life. The 5 of them were amazing kids. Now they're amazing adults and have families of their own and children of their own. She has 10 wonderful grandchildren. 1 or 2 I haven't met yet. I'll have to get out to California to do that. One thing that Rosa wanted, and if we learned nothing else from her, was the importance of family, helping each other, being there for each other, whether it be a phone call. How are you? How do you feel? It's good to hear your voice. Is there anything I can do for you? Do you need help with something? Denise helped get some of the pictures together. Nancy helped in many ways for the Shabbat dinner. And Nicole helped by opening her home and having all of us stampeded. But remember, the one thing that Rosa wanted was her family to always be there for one another, for the Jewish community. Do what you can, not just expect to take. Give to others, because Rosa always gave to others. From her heart, and especially to those who were the underdogs, helpless, and even one of her biggest pets were her own pets in animal shelters to help those helpless that couldn't help themselves. All of us are going to miss her, and let's hope that she's in peace now and no suffering. Amen.
Thank you, Ruth. And now we have the honor of being able to hear from Rosa's boys. from Jeffrey, from Stephen, from Michael, and from David. Fellas, one at a time.
I have some words, but first, my daughter who couldn't be here wanted me to read something which I haven't read yet, so this might be tough. Let's see. That's my daughter Sarah. She's 8, and she wrote this. Dear Mima, I'm going to miss you. You are a very kind grandma. You will always be with me in my heart, even though I cannot see you. I feel sad because of my loss of you, but I know you are here always. I wish I could have seen you before you passed, and I love your animals. You were sweeter than a flower, and I know you will be there even in the depths of winter. I want to thank you for the dolls you gave to me. Thank you for all that you have done to me and with me. It's good that you rest in peace. I have been crying a lot lately. I wish I could be with you right now. You were always kind to me, and I like that. The angels and goddesses and God will be with you, and my whole heart and soul. I wish you were still here. I'm going to Camp Galil this summer. I wish you could be there with me. I feel sad that you were gone. I wish with all my heart that you could have stayed for one more year so that I could see you. Love, Sarah, Cleve, Esther, Novick. And I just had my own thing. My mother loved writing poems and rhyming couplets. That's not really my style, but I thought I might try to honor her, so here goes. In 1942, a flower started to bloom in the spiritual center of Jerusalem. Varda, they called her, a flower, a rose. At 5, she moved to Baltimore, so the story goes. There she had her girl posse with Shirley and Sandy. They'd go to Grandpa's shop for soda and candy. With her mom and her dad and her sister Ruth, she lived the American dream, to tell you the truth. As a young adult, she found love, her heart's company, and she married and started her own family. Not one child nor 2, not 3 or 4, but 5. It's a wonder she made it through those 50 parenting years alive. I'm constantly exhausted and overwhelmed with my 2. Just imagine what 3 more snarky mouths will do. I mean, it's amazing. For years, we gave her flack for her eccentricities, but I learned to cut her some slack. Raising 5 children is a lot of hard work. Thinking back on my criticism, I feel like a jerk. She worked tirelessly to care for us and raise us with her values: spirituality, education, compassion for others, a love of all people and animals too. Sometimes it felt like her house was a zoo. But that was her choice, her passion, her desire. My earliest memory was our Levittown house on fire. I remember her worry as clear as it was yesterday to make sure all the animals were out of harm's way. She loved them as family, and she kept us all safe. Soon we moved to Wrightstown so we could all have more space. Of course, things got harder when my father moved out. She had to raise Steve and I on our own, a challenge, no doubt. Later, Steve left too, so it was just me and my mother. And for those 2 teen years, we both grew together. But it took me decades to understand and really see that my mother always wanted the very best for me. She fought for me to go to private schools, to Israel, to camp. These opportunities opened doors and made me who I am. My schooling and rearing was so important to my mother, and I never got the chance until last week to thank her. I don't know if she heard me. She was so sick by then. But here with my family, I want to say it again. She gave me so much, taught me more than I gave credit. All those years I was so focused on what I didn't get. Now that she's gone, her final lesson, I understand. Take time to appreciate those that we love while we can. Goodbye, dear mother. I'll miss you while you rest. I wish for you, as you wished for me, always the best.
Thank you, Mom. I wanted to start with that. Thank you for the years you gave us. When I got to Mom's house the day that she left us, the TV was on. I looked at it, and as I was ready to turn it off, that was the message that flashed on the screen. It said, "Thank you, Mom," on the screen. So one more time, I say it. Thank you, Mom, for all the years you gave us. For those of you over 40, you may remember a commercial where an elderly woman walks into a room where her husband was sitting and she's crying. Her husband asked her, "What's the matter?" She said, "Their son called." The husband asked if the son is okay, and the mom says, "The son called just to say that he loved her." I heard a story about a rabbi who saw one of his congregants shouting and spanking his son. He later took the man aside and asked him, what would he have done if it was the neighbor's son who he was watching? The man replied he would have gently told the child that his behavior was inappropriate, but to harshly discipline someone else's children would be inappropriate. The rabbi then said that children are loaned to us as a gift from God, and we're answerable to God for how we treat them. They are gifts while we take care of them, and as we grow up, our roles change. Now we become responsible for our aging parents. They are our gift. Everyone's time is limited. We know that it's easy to get angry at a child or an aging parent for doing the wrong things. For spilling milk or drawing on the walls for a child. For our parents, it might be wanting to keep us on a phone for an hour every single time that they call. I lived with my mom into my 20s and helped take care of her as she was getting sick over the last 10 years, and I'm glad I had the chance to do it. I was lucky enough to take her on a trip with me to Israel in 2010, and as difficult as it was, I'm glad I had a chance to do it. Mom was strong-willed and could be a challenge at times, but that's what life is about, overcoming obstacles. Time with her family is really all she wanted. Time to see us, time to talk to us, and I wish I had more time to spend with her. There is a moral here as well. Parents, when your kids want time, give it to them. Real time. Turn off the tablets and a cell phone for a little while. And those lucky enough to still have parents, we don't know how much time we have with them. Give it. Give them some time also. Mom, I love you. Just wanted to add a little interesting story to that. I came here to the funeral home when they brought Mom here, and I said some prayers with her. And I said, Mom, if you're here, make the lights shake. Do something with the lights. The lights didn't shake, but 5 minutes later, I got a call from my wife saying there's a rainbow right over the funeral home. So I went outside, I saw it, and it was one of the biggest brightest rainbows I had ever seen. Even yesterday, I'm like, Mom, if you're still with us, give me some kind of sign, anything. I walked outside and there was the remnants of a mouse in front of the back porch, and I'm like, really, Mom? Couldn't have been something else? She loved her cats, and a lot of them were outside, and I think that was a sign maybe to make sure we got the cats taken care of. When I went back inside, I'm like, can you give us a nicer sign? And literally 10 minutes later, when I went outside again, in the same place that the mouse had been that I'd removed, there was a red cardinal sitting there. And I'm like, thank you, that's a little bit nicer. I went back inside, came back out, and in the same spot where the red cardinal was, there was now a blue jay. So on the programs, we actually have red and blue on the ones that we printed ourselves for that reason. That's it. Thank you. I love you, Mom.
Cindy, are you ready?
Hello, everybody. I'm Cindy. I'm my mom, Rosa's third child, the middle one. And this is my friend, Barbara. She's been a big help and support to my family. I didn't have any speech prepared, but one thing I wanted to say, something that my mother taught me, to always have many friends and to love those friends and welcome people. When I was a little girl, I did a lot myself because the boys would often play together. They could climb the trees, but if I climbed the trees, I was supposed to get down because that's not something a girl should be doing, a nice little girl. So I learned to spend plenty of time in my room and read a lot and value education, which is something that was very important to my mother. And she always supported me to learn all that I could know. She sent me to a Hebrew school, and she advocated for me to have a bat mitzvah. I studied very hard to keep good grades, and when I was not good with my English and my studies, she would always help me with those things. Math, that was a little bit more of a struggle. We both struggled with it together. But one of the things that she supported was me to have many friends. When I was a little girl, she had a couple come over and they brought their children, and all of us would spend time going out together and stay in each other's homes. We used to go out, the kids would go for walks, and we would bring our friends into our house in Levittown. We would have yard sales in the back lawn. We would do a puppet show, and these are the kinds of things that she taught us. And then as I grew up, I kept my faith. I continued going to the synagogue, and I grew strong in prayer, and she shared those times with me when we had our Shabbat dinners together in her home, and then as we had our families, in our families' homes, we went to my brother Steve's house, and he many times would make a nice Shabbat dinner, and my mother would come, and she would light the candles, and she would encourage the girls to light the candles, the children with us. And at the parties, she always asked me, who's coming to the party? And I would say, how about just you and me? She'd say, what about all your friends? She always wanted to have many, many friends at my gatherings and at my parties. And she always supported me for having the friends that I have. But the one thing about my mother that she taught me was to be a kind person, and that I may be a little bit sensitive, and she may not have always understood that, but she told me that she was proud to have a child that can be kind to others and put aside herself sometimes. And to have the family that I have, we not always have been close together, but now we have a chance, even living far apart. We were all taught the same things, and that we should help someone who is struggling, because no matter how sad or how hard my life is, there is always somebody or something else that is going through a tougher time that I can reach out to. She did support the animals. She had times she didn't have much to give, but she would always give. She would always, when I was a little girl, she took in baby birds. If they broke their wing, she would wrap them up and she would get them better. And this is the kind of person that I strive to be. And I continue to go to the temple, and I continue to follow my prayers, and most of all, to love deep from within my heart my family, my friends, and anyone who is in need that I could be a support to. And all I could say is thank you, Mother, for all of those gifts and the things that you have taught me.
Early this morning, before the sun rose, I sent a text message to my mom. It was the first text message I ever sent because my mom didn't text. It's a tribute to her, and before I share that, the Lord put on my heart some verses from Psalm 90, from a prayer of Moses, the man of God. My Lord, you have been our dwelling from generation to generation. Before the mountains were born, or you gave birth to the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn mankind back to dust, saying, return, children of Adam. For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day just passing by, or like a watch in the night. You sweep them away in their sleep. In the morning they are like sprouting grass. In the morning it flourishes and springs up. By evening it withers and dries up. The span of our years is 70, or with strength 80. Yet at best they are trouble and sorrow, for they are soon gone and we fly away. So teach us to number our days, so that we may get a heart of wisdom. Satisfy us in the morning with your love, so we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Let your work appear to your servants, and your splendor on their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us. And here's the tribute that I texted to my mom. Dear Mother, I know in the past you didn't receive text messages, But I'm sure you do now because it has to go up through that cloud thing, right? I just wanted you to know that although today we're mourning the loss of you, we are also celebrating your life. Yesterday, I sat beside the river. I thought about that old saying, gone but not forgotten. I realized you're definitely not forgotten. Obviously, you're gone from this world, but you're not gone. You have gone to heaven. I know because you made peace with God before you left. And I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you for staying around a few extra days so we could come visit you and have one last Shabbat together. Yes, the Lord was waiting for you. But as it was your custom, even him you made wait. You put him on hold for a few more days so you could say goodbye to all of your children together. Yesterday when I was beside the river, I saw you in a place of beautiful green pastures. You were riding upon your horse, a place where there's no more tears and no more disease and suffering and pain of this world. Life the way it is meant to be. Chaim leolam, life everlasting. And I know I will see you again, but for now, I want to say to you, thank you for life, l'chaim. Thank you for the sacrifices you've made for me and all of your children. Thank you that from far away you always had time to talk to me an hour or more and more and even more. Yes, you love to talk. And like a detective, you always wanted to find out what was going on in our lives. Thank you because you always thought about others more than you thought about yourself. If you found an article in the newspaper or an item that you thought I would like, you would send it to me. Yes, you were always thinking about others. A quality we could all use more of. Thank you for your example. Although you were in your 70s, okay, the secret's out now. You never had a problem displaying a childlike playfulness. You always look for the best in people. You could strike up a conversation with anyone, anywhere, about anything. You had found this simple secret of making friends in this world. Just be friendly. Maybe you didn't care about fancy clothes, or fancy cars, or painted nails. But you did care about, most importantly, was people. Okay, yes, and animals too. You would surely not let me forget that. So, Mom, I want to thank you for the example, and with it, I want to try to be a better person. A person who's not too busy for people. A person who's not too busy with things and possessions. A person who's not too serious about life that I forget to be playful or friendly. And yes, a person who doesn't forget to be kind to animals. Yes, you have changed my life. And you have changed the lives of so many others. And so, you have changed the world. I love you, your son Michael. Peace.
I want to thank all of you for coming today and paying your respects to my mother. She really was an amazing woman. And, I've always been one to kind of speak from the heart, and that's something that she and I share. And my wife said something interesting to me recently. She said, you need to be nicer to your mother. She doesn't have much time left because you may not get a chance to say how you really feel. And she was very right about that. And I think about all the things that she did, and I am not the most, for those of you that know me, I'm not the most patient person, certainly. I get irritable at little things, and I have to give her credit for that. That was something that she always was very patient. She was always very good with meeting new people, and she always had time. I never seemed to have the time or the time for her. And the past few weeks and months, Steve and I, we've been trying to help my mother out and get things together for her. And I'd been going through her house and some of her personal effects. And I remember the last day that we spent together. It was interesting because it was just like any other day. I came to get her bills in order and her estate paperwork and all that, and we were just sitting together and talking. And it was just a very run-of-the-mill thing. And I remember, while I was doing it, she was sitting and telling me what some of these things were. And she said to me, she said, I'm going to eat. Why don't you sit with me? And I said, well, I'm not really that hungry and I want to get through this. And she said to me, she said, eat with me because I usually eat alone. And it would be nice for you to sit with me. So I sat with her and we had lunch together. And we talked. And it's not something we did very often and it was just whatever, run-of-the-mill kind of stuff, but it was just nice to be able to spend time with her. And it's so fleeting because it was the last time that I really spent a day with her where she was herself. And it made me realize that I didn't always appreciate the things that she would do for us and that she really did put us off first. When I was going through her papers, I found invoices and all kinds of mailing of all these different collectibles that she would buy, and I remember she would give them to us for our birthdays or for the holidays or for Hanukkah or for the children or for the grandchildren, and I never thought much about it. And sometimes they say, please don't waste your time or your money on that, we don't want it. And my wife would say to me, don't insult her that way, that's not nice. And I never realized how much time and effort she had actually put into collecting all these things for us because it was so important to her that she showed the love for us that she had and how much she loved her animals and loved other people. And you really don't appreciate those things until you see them, or how hard it was to raise 5 children. We have 1, and we have enough trouble raising her. And, I used to get mad at my parents, when we were little, like, why didn't they take us to more places? Why didn't we go out all the time? I mean, just going out with 1 child is enough. I can't even imagine, how hard it would be taking 5 children everywhere you go on a trip and everything. But, she still managed to make sure that we had things to do. We'd go to the beach. We'd go visit Rosa and Ed Spector every summer. We'd go to their house and go to Seaside and go to the boardwalk, and that was something she really loved. She loved going to the beach, and if anything, one thing I'm sad about her passing is I'd hoped that we'd take her one last time this summer. But at least she held on long enough for all of us to see her and all of us to say goodbye, and all the people that she touched and everybody that she knew. I remember, how she would strike up a conversation with anyone. She would sometimes I'd have a booth at the Grange Fair. She used to love going to the Grange Fair and seeing all the animals and the exhibits and everybody. And she talked to everyone. And sometimes she would actually man the booth for me. I'd be there all day. She'd say, "How many people did you get to sign up?" And I'd say, "I don't know, maybe 15. I'd come back and I'd say, "How did you do?" "I have 100 signatures." Because she would talk to anybody. She wouldn't stop anyone from before she had a chance to meet them and introduce herself, because she really wanted to meet new people, and she loved that. And the only thing I feel bad about is that I didn't understand that. I didn't spend more time with her. And that's all she really wanted, was to have more time with people and for people to care about her and appreciate her the way that she appreciated them. So I just want you to know that I appreciate you and I understand and I love you. God bless.
There is a wonderful expression, a saying. Its original is in Yiddish. I'm not going to do that with you today. But when a baby is born and comes into the world, in Jewish families, the tradition is to talk about how each child brings his or her own unique blessing into the world. It's our tradition's way of saying that each of us is here for a purpose, for a reason. That each of us brings something to this world that no one else can do in quite the same way. In other words, we're here because God needs us to be here. We have our own special role to play. And as I have been thinking about Rose, not just losing her now, but thinking about her through all of her years of involvement in the synagogue and all of our telephone conversations and all of our shared Saturday morning worships, all of it, I've been thinking a lot about the blessing that Rosa brought into the world. She brought into the world a gift, I think, for hard work. Whatever it was that Rosa could do to make a little bit for herself and for her family, she did, whether it was working for an answering service, doing telephone surveys, telemarketing, caregiving at Chandler Hall, and best for her of all, daycare and childcare, because she so loved children. Blessing that she brought into the world, a passionate, zealous love for every member of God's kingdom. She loved her pets. And if you entered her home, you knew that you would be met at the doorstep by dogs and cats, that there would be birds and hamsters and fish, and thankfully not in the house, but there would be even the horses that she so loved to ride. This was a real passion for her, sometimes so strong that she placed those animals above her own interests and sometimes her friends and family. She brought into the world a passion for what life has to offer, sometimes limited by her means. She couldn't do everything that she might have wished to do, but she loved the theater, and she loved watching old sci-fi films, and she loved going to the movies. She loved the beach. She loved reading, and she was, as we all know well, someone who loved a great conversation. And she loved community. And one of the things that I came to know and cherish through the years was the way she made our synagogue community her second family. She was there all the time. She knew everyone, and everyone knew Rosa. And we knew that she had a passion for Jewish life and for Jewish learning. In all of these ways and so much more, Rosa brought a special blessing into the world. But I also want to suggest today, especially after the tributes of her family, her niece and her sister and her children, that one of the blessings that we bring into the world, sometimes consciously and sometimes not, sometimes intentionally and sometimes not, is the blessing that we bring out in other people. We know, if we knew Rosa at all, that she could be challenging. She could be someone who made us stop and pay attention when we would rather have been paying attention to other things. She could keep us in long conversations when we had other items on our agenda. She was relentless in pursuing what she thought was right and proper and coming to her and her family. She was not always easy. But I think what Rosa brought out in all of us who knew her through the long years and who really valued our relationship in spite of its sometimes challenges. What I think she brought out in this world, the special blessing that she brought to us all, was, as you have heard from her family, she made us be a little bit more patient. She made us look for the best in other people and not dismiss them because they were different from us, because they operated in a different way or spoke in a different way. She elicited from us a concern for those who sometimes could not take care of themselves. She brought out in us a gift for forbearance, for respecting the dignity of others. She made us do that because she connected with us and would not let go. And when we connected with her and would not let go, she brought out, I think, what our Quaker friends call that of God. She brought that out in each of us, challenging us